It's very common that people don't have a plan from start to finish on how this is going to work. It's not like buying real estate with an agent where there's professionals every step of the way. You really got to know what you're doing from start to finish on how all the professionals you're going to use from when you first look at the property to when you're going to sell it to the end buyer and how you're going to get all those hurdles cleared. So bear in mind that if everything goes according to plan, it takes about 4 to 6 months. 5 months is probably average, but I usually promise 6 months. I want to under-promise and over-deliver.
Yep.
So you have to kind of be prepared in the back of your mind that like, hey, if this is one where the owner is very much alive, they have a little bit of money, and maybe there was legitimately a problem with the service of notice from the commissioner's office, this is something that could tie your money up for a period of years while it's getting sorted out.
Welcome to another REI-NWA Podcast. This is episode number 35, and we are going to be digging into tax auctions here in Arkansas. It's always a really fun topic that comes up every year because those auctions come up every summer. And so I, of course, am your host, Coley Bailey. I am the principal broker at Lone Rock Realty. So if you need a great agent, I know quite a few that might be able to help you out there. But today, I've got the famous Paul Younger. How you doing, man?
Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you on the show. So Paul is involved, owns TWWS Title. And so we're going to rewind the clocks a little bit, okay, to get the show kicked off, to learn who you are, where you're from, how you got started. I want to hear the story of TWWS Title.
Yeah. So I was in private practice for about 7 or 8 years, doing a lot of different types of legal work. The problem that I ran into was that, as the attorney, you have to do all the sales, you have to do all the marketing, you have to do all the work, and it's only, your labor that brings in any income. And so, that business model wasn't working for me. And so I started looking around and, being a title company is essentially practicing law, except you can hire salespeople, you can hire title researchers to do the legal work, and you can hire, other people who assist through the whole process, so you don't have to be involved in every single step of the business process.
You can actually scale a business.
You can scale it, yeah. And you can also, the cost is a lot lower. Instead of people paying you $300 an hour, you're able to utilize someone else's labor to make these costs a lot lower.
Right.
So I just found it to be a much better business model, and it really focused on the legal work I wanted to do, which was real estate, and it got rid of all the other nonsense, right?
Yeah.
It got rid of all the divorces and the child custody cases and all the stuff that, I just didn't want to spend my time doing.
Very important.
Yeah.
But if you want to specialize,
exactly. So that's kind of what I did, is just kind of trimmed everything else off. So now we have the title company, and we also have the Arkansas real estate attorneys.
Okay.
Which the title company does the closings and the title searches, and then the Arkansas real estate attorneys does the quiet title lawsuits that we're going to talk about today.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. When did TWS start?
2021.
2021. All right. And where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Florida, but I went to law school here and kind of got stuck in this area. And so here we are 13 years later.
It happens to a lot of people.
It does.
They come here for a vacation and they just never leave,
That's right.
Okay, great. So let's dig into this a little bit. So the Commissioner of State Lands does a tax auction every year. Mm-hmm. And I just want to dig into some of the specifics of this. Obviously, we're going to have a program, just so everyone's aware. This is going to be our main meeting for the month of June, and it's going to be at the Hyatt House in Rogers on June 11th. So come out and check that out. We're going to be digging in on the show a little bit today, just on a couple of topics within there. And the first question I have is, how does a property become eligible for auction in this specific auction?
Sure. So everything we're going to talk about today is very specific to the tax sales that are put on by the Commissioner of State Lands. If you purchased a Bella Vista lot at an auction, we're not talking about that. We're talking about not foreclosure auctions. We're talking about just the auctions done by the Commissioner's office. And so how the property gets on that list is it's tax delinquent for a period of usually 3 to 4 years. So most of these properties you're going to be looking at, no one's paid the taxes in 3 to 4 years. A lot of times that means it's been abandoned for 3 or 4 years. And sometimes it could take up to 5 years to get to the auction block, but typically It's a bare minimum of 2 years, but bureaucracy takes a certain amount of time. So 3 to 4, sometimes 5 years is how long it takes.
Yep. All right. So now Lisa Pelton is also going to be a speaker at this meeting. And what does she normally cover?
So Lisa normally covers the actual sales process. She works for the commissioner's office.
Okay.
So she's kind of the person who's over the whole sale process. From when the properties go tax delinquent and are certified to the state by the county, she handles that process up until they issue a deed to you, the buyer.
Okay, so now when you, the buyer, have the deed, you bring it.
Then you bring it to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's when I come into the process here.
Okay.
So what you buy from the commissioner is you're buying a limited warranty deed. You're not buying good, clear, marketable title. And so if you just buy it from the commissioner's office and you go to sell the property, the title company is going to tell you, hey, you can't close on this property. You have to do a quiet title lawsuit to remove the interest of the former owners. To kind of make it really short and sweet, if the government takes your property, they have to follow the legal procedures that are part of a lawsuit. They have to follow that formal process. So what the state of Arkansas does is they've taken your property and they've sold it, but they haven't completed that process because they haven't gone through the formalities of due process requires in the quiet title lawsuit. So other states do it differently. If you buy a property in Texas at one of these auctions, you don't have to do a quiet title lawsuit because the state did that lawsuit for you. So what you've bought is basically you have the right to use the property. You just can't get title insurance on it. If you can't get title insurance, then people can't borrow money against the property. And if you can't borrow money against the property, you really can't sell it. And so there's a very small chance that the former owners could come back and reclaim the property if you haven't done a quiet title lawsuit.
How would they do that?
Sure. So there's a whole lot of legal loops they have to jump through. But really the only way that the former owners can win is if they did not get notice of the lawsuit. So if the county didn't notify them of these taxes that were due, and then the state didn't notify them that the property was about to be auctioned, then they might have a claim where they might be able to get the sale set aside. And so that's the concern, and that's why you can't sell the property until you do the quiet title lawsuit, is you've got to remove that interest.
Okay. We want to point out that this is just for the state of Arkansas because every state is different, right?
Every state's completely different. Don't go into Oklahoma or Missouri and think, well, I know how to do this in Arkansas, so I can do it here. Yeah. Every state's totally different, and you really got to spend a lot of time learning the local rules, right, talking to local attorneys, and probably a title company to have a plan from the auction to the closing when you sell it. Because that's really where the problem is in Arkansas. I get probably 50 phone calls a year where someone has bought a property at an auction, a tax auction.
Yep.
And they don't know about the quiet title lawsuit afterwards. And they want to know, I just bought this property. What do you mean I have to do a lawsuit? What are you talking about?
Yep.
And so it's very common that people don't have a plan from start to finish on how this is going to work. It's not like buying real estate with an agent where there's professionals every step of the way. You really got to know what you're doing from start to finish on how all the professionals you're going to use from when you first look at the property to when you're going to sell it to the end buyer, and how you're going to get all those hurdles cleared.
Yeah. Yeah. And, because in some other states, I just want to dig into this a little bit, because in some other states, it's like, I don't know, there's lien states and deed states and all these different things. And so some of them, you pay the taxes that the back taxes, and then the previous owner has a chance to get it back because they pay that, or they pay you, 12%, 25%, whatever. And if they don't, then you get the property. So, but it's not like that in Arkansas. So the process in Arkansas is that if you pay those back taxes and then you go through this suit, then you get the property.
Yeah. If you purchase the property at auction, all sales are final at the auction. So when you buy it, you have bought it. However, if the former owners have some sort of valid claim, they may be able to then get the sale set aside via litigation.
Got it.
But there's no redemption period. There is no period that the former owners can just pay the back taxes and it's no harm, no foul. They get the property back.
Right.
All sales are final at the auction, but there's maybe a 1% to 2% chance that these people can come back if they hire a lawyer, if they follow all the processes, and they could get the sale set aside. Now, what happens, because I know the next question is, well, what happens if the sale gets set aside? You would get your purchase money back from the commissioner.
Got it.
You don't get any of the legal fees that you spent out back. And if you have invested money in the physical property itself, it's highly unlikely you're going to get that back. So we don't advise anybody do anything to the property besides secure the property and prevent any further damage before we get the quiet title done. Right. So if the roof is leaking, then go repair the leak, but don't put a new roof on.
Okay. So, and how long does this process typically take? What are you seeing there?
Sure. It takes about 6 months.
Okay.
Now, if it's one that, maybe 1 out of 50 or 1 out of 100 properties, we have, a contested litigation and there becomes a problem. So bear in mind that if everything goes according to plan, it takes about 6 months, 4 to 6 months. 5 months is probably average, but I usually promise 6 months because I don't want to, I want to under promise and over deliver.
Absolutely. Yep.
So usually 6 months, but if it's one that there's a problem, the contested litigation could drag on for years. So you have to kind of be prepared in the back of your mind that like, hey, if this is one where the owner is very much alive, they have a little bit of money, and maybe there was legitimately a problem with the service of notice from the commissioner's office, this is something that could tie your money up for a period of years while it's getting sorted out. That's one of the many risks that are involved in this, is that there will be litigation over it. And while, we might have 98 or 99% of the cases go smoothly, if you're that 1 or 2%, be prepared that it could take a long time.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to leave most of this here. I want to just remind everybody, we are going to have a main meeting coming up at the Hyatt House in Rogers. Doors open at 5:30. We'll get started at 6. It's going to be $20 at the door if you're not a member of REI-NWA. If you are, it's $0, and it's recorded along with years worth of backlog meetings that you can access. So definitely worth those membership dollars. Highly encourage you to do that. But yeah, this is a subject that it's almost like a secret society because it's different in every state.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a convoluted legal process that most people don't even understand. I bet there are even some attorneys that don't specialize in this that may not be able to tell you all this stuff.
Oh yeah. It's a very, very niche area. There's a handful of attorneys in the state that do it. In fact, it's a very niche thing. When you go to these auctions, you'll see the same people in the room you did the week before, right? Like,
Yeah.
So it's not everybody goes statewide, but you'll see people regionally. It's the same group. You'll also see that if you know who the people are, you'll learn that about 25% of what gets purchased is purchased by an attorney, right? The complexity level is enough that if you know the people in the room, you'll know, okay, that guy's an attorney, that guy's an attorney. That's who's doing this because they understand what the risks are.
Right.
And they're just a little bit better able to judge if this risk is something they're comfortable with.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to try to break it down for the layperson with you and Lisa Pelton again on June 11th. So mark that on the calendars. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you there. Thanks for watching this one. We'll catch you on the next one.